Welcome back to another episode of Spit Boys Podcast. Special here. We're going to do a Heroes and Zeros special today, brother.
Yep.
And that means we are going to wrap up college football season, who our heroes and zeros are individually throughout the college football season.
Yeah.
Who our heroes and zeros are individually for the NFL football season.
Yeah.
And then we're going to discuss who we think the league MVP should be for NFL. And we are also going to wrap up the show with, I think, discussing team-wise who we thought was our biggest disappointments as a team that failed expectations, and who were our biggest surprises that exceeded expectations. So, brother, I'm going to start off with you. Heroes and zeros, college football season. Who you got?
Oh, man. Well, my hero of the season, Stetson Bennett.
Hey, go fuck yourself. Get that guy out of here. Piece of shit.
No, just
I'll
kidding.
kill
It's
you.
gonna be...
I'll kill you. I'll stop tape right now, and I'll gut you neck to nuts.
I'm going to go with just Michigan in general, I think. Beautiful season. The last 2 years have really been a wild ride for me, and I've really enjoyed it. I think next year we're in for a good one, too. So,
what's Jim Harbaugh doing? Is he staying? Is he going?
Jim Harbaugh's going to stay. I think.
Is he going to leave next year? Is he going to do this dog and pony show where he's going to threaten to leave again?
Here's what I think is going to happen is I think the new president is like Sonny Bono or something like this. Santa Ono.
Oh, yeah.
Is the new real
university president. Yeah, it's like Santa Claus Ono or something like that.
Well, I think that they are headed for a divorce with Ward Manuel as athletic director. I think Harbaugh is going to basically strong arm Ward Manuel out.
And they don't get along, or what?
No, I don't think that they're on speaking terms at this point. It's an article I read the
What's
other
the deal with that?
Well,
Harbaugh out wearing his welcome, wants too much power.
No, I think that
that's been the case with him in the past.
He's played too hardball with Harbaugh. I think they slashed his pay.
But that was justified.
The NIL stuff, I think Harbaugh's been pushing for, and Manuel just won't co-sign it.
His pay was slashed, but that was justified.
Yeah,
at the time.
It was. No doubt about it.
So he's your zero, or I mean, sorry, Michigan as a whole is your hero.
Yeah,
who's your zero for college football season?
Oh man, on the season,
is there a player or a team?
There's probably one team that I looked at, and I think it's just more of. This, I was going to say Texas Longhorns and Sarkisian, and
that'd be a good one.
I just feel that
very disappointing.
Texas is stuck, and I used to love Texas. I used to root for them.
You did, I remember.
I was a big
back
Texas
in the Vince
fan.
Young years, a little before the Vince Young
the Ricky
years.
Williams years and all that
Colt
stuff.
McCoy.
Major Applewhite, they had some good players. They were fun to watch, and man, they just.
Can't get it right.
Yeah, they're just not any closer.
They can't get right.
They've changed coaches. I can't remember who was that coach. He was at Ohio State. He was like an assistant. Then went to Houston. He went like 13-1 at Houston, and then he went to Texas. He lasted like 2 or 3 years, and then they shit canned him. I can't remember what his name
They're close
is.
though.
Yeah, but I don't
Quinn
know.
Ewers another year, I think.
But they're going to the SEC.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
It'll be interesting to see how well they do there.
Yeah, that's true.
I just don't think they're any closer.
Okay. That's
so
pretty good.
And a landscape.
So is that your zero, the Texas Longhorns, or?
Yeah, in the season, I would have expected a little bit more out of them, and they just really disappointed.
Okay.
I mean, aside from the Alabama game,
Yeah. Okay. For mine, my hero is going to be Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama.
I feel shocked.
Because I'm a little biased. Well, you picked Michigan. Smart ass.
Little girl.
I'm going to pick Bryce Young because it was him and a bunch of nobodies, his brother likes to say. And we had
Bryce Young, much nobody.
Although it was a disappointing season that we had with 2 losses, it was still a pretty damn good season considering what we had to work with on offense.
It was quite a pathetic season. Really.
Yeah, it was pathetic, but saved in the same breath because we didn't have much to work with. And now our offense coordinator is going to be leaving. Our defense coordinator is already gone. See ya!
And where did
Pete Golding. He is now the defensive coordinator of Mississippi. Under Lane Kiffin.
Oh, geez.
So he did a lateral move or a downward move because he was already defensive coordinator at Alabama for multiple years, 3-4 years, and now he's defensive coordinator with Mississippi. Ole Miss. And what's that tell you?
Well,
that tells you Saban was like, I ain't gonna fire you.
Yeah, but you gotta go.
But I ain't gonna fire you, but you can't stay here. So I know Lane here in Mississippi. and he's looking for a DC. So I'll put in a word for you, and we'll swap you to Mississippi, and then I'm going to start over and look for someone new.
Pretty much.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So Bryce Young's your hero.
Yeah, Bryce Young's my hero because he had a great season considering what he had to work with.
Talk about Pete Golding going to say Mississippi.
What?
Say Mississippi.
I was,
Bryce Young.
I'm very excited about that. That should be
Okay.
my hero is Pete Golding just for leaving.
All right, well then that's your hero.
No, Bryce Young. But then my zero is going
Who's
to
your
be zero is this Texas Christian Horned Frogs as a whole. Is that
Both
team.
our zeros live in Texas.
Because I mean, I was once they made it to the national title game, I was rooting for them. One, because I hate Georgia.
Your brother despises Georgia.
Two, because it was just a nice underdog story. But they had no business being there. They had no business being on the field
with Georgia.
With Georgia.
No.
That was an embarrassment. That was the worst national championship game you'll probably ever see in your lifetime.
It was horrible.
It was embarrassing,
It was horrible.
and it was pathetic, to be honest.
I think
And people probably turned it off. It had to be the lowest rated national title game ever.
turned it off.
People
at
turned it
halftime.
off probably halfway through the second
A couple
quarter.
people at work asked me, what I thought and stuff, and I was like, I just hope it's a game through halftime because
It was not.
if it is, then I'll watch a little bit of the third quarter and probably fall
It
asleep.
was like
but
35-7 at halftime.
Yeah, I
So,
was like, oh, this is great. I can turn it off and go to bed.
yeah, basically what I did too. So there's our heroes and zeros for the college football season, brother. NFL season. Who
Oh,
you got?
boy.
Who's your heroes and zeros through the NFL?
My hero of the season, we watched him today, is Mr. Joe Burrow.
We got Bengals and Bills just wrapped up second round of the NFL playoff weekend, and Bills
And,
Bengals just
I
beat the
can
Bills.
sum up what Cincy just did to Buffalo with a little. That's pretty much what happened. It was 27-10, I think, is where it ended up. We just kind of
Pretty unexpected.
With the snow and stuff.
I think you picked the Bengals to win.
Yeah, I picked it 34-31.
I
thought it
picked
was going to be.
I picked Bills 30-24.
Yeah, I really did not expect Cincinnati's defense to be as just smothering as they were.
Josh Allen was under duress like the
most
whole
of the game.
And I've never seen Cincy's defense play that good.
Yeah,
So,
they were all over him.
Joe Burrow was a good pick. Man, he had a hell of a season, and what he's doing.
Well, they started out not so hot. I think they were like 1-3,
1-2 or something,
2-3 or something like that at one time. I know they had lost 3 games, and they were like 1-3 or 2-3 or something like that.
They only lost like 3 or 4 games all year.
Yeah, then they went on a tear. They just went on an absolute tear, and so
largely because of Burrow.
Yeah, largely because of Burrow. I think he ended up throwing for like 4,500 yards on the season, 35 touchdowns, 12 picks. 100 QBR. I mean, like I just love.
Which is honestly probably kind of a down year for him.
Yeah, I just love watching he plays. He's just phenomenal to watch. Just a great player to watch. So he's my hero of the season. What he's done in the whole season, and now watching him right now is we're going to watch them go to Kansas City, and that'll be a good game in the AFC title game.
What you got for zero?
Zero on the season. Oh, it's got to be Brandon Staley for the Chargers. I mean,
coach of the Chargers.
At least they did get to the playoffs, so I got to give them credit. But it was always kind of like a backdoor thing, and it's like I just don't get it with Justin Herbert. It's like you got this stallion, man, this stud, and look at him. He's like a specimen, man. Gay. I've never seen anybody throw the football like Justin Herbert. I mean, he can be running and just rip one, man, 70 yards the other way. It's incredible, and I don't know how you lose with a guy like that. And
you blow a 27-0 lead in the playoffs.
Yeah, you're up 27-0 and
against the Jaguars.
I thought that they only run the ball like 12 times in the second half of that game,
which is also crazy because you have Austin Eckler, who's one of the best running backs in the league.
Yeah, it's just like poor coaching, poor game management, not understanding the situation.
I turned that game off at halftime.
Yeah, I did too.
And then I woke up and saw on Bleach Report the next day that the Jags came back and won like 31-30. I'm what the hell?
Yeah. So I saw it on Bleacher Report. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah, and that's a good zero pick because a lot of people are calling for him to be fired now.
Well,
even though he made the playoffs.
It's one of those things where the AFC is so stacked now with Buffalo.
Especially that division.
Yeah.
The Chiefs, the Broncos should be good, but they're not. They fired their coach. They got Russell Wilson now, who had a down year, but I think the Broncos will turn it around quick. They got the Chargers and the Cowboys, or not the Cowboys. My Raiders have a ton of potential, but had an awful year too because their coach is a buffoon.
But the AFC, though, when you look at the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, and then if Justin Herbert could ever get the Chargers by the scruff of the neck, I mean, you'd have the 4 teams.
Yeah,
look out.
You have a lot of good young quarterbacks.
Oh, man, dude. For the next 10 years, you'd have some great battles.
I'm gonna do for my hero and zero. Man, it's tough to pick a hero because there's like nobody really wowed me this year
Yeah.
in the NFL. I mean, we'll pick our MVP picks here in a sec, but I mean, me being a Raiders guy, there wasn't really anything positive to take out of this year other than Josh Jacobs was like really the only guy that did anything.
Yeah,
He led the league in rushing,
and
ran for like 1,600 yards, something like that. Had a great
Yeah.
season. Didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so he's going to be gone anyway. So we probably won't see him
I think
anymore.
he's what, 24, 25.
Young
I
guy.
mean, is the tread coming off the tires though a little
Nah,
bit?
he's got a good another couple of years left. I think,
You think
maybe
so?
2 years left. He'll get paid and go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So he's probably my hero of the season because he was the only saving grace of that season was watching Josh Jacobs have a great year.
Devontae had a pretty good season.
Devontae Adams did have a good year too.
You know.
I mean, as much as they just forced him the ball, but I guess you have to do that for your
So
stars.
he's your hero?
I'd say Josh Jacobs, yeah. He's an Alabama guy too.
Yeah.
So
All right, so who's your
my zero? This was tough to pick too because it was very easy to pick Derek Carr, being a
Mhm.
Raiders guy also. And he got benched the last 2 games of the season. He was sucked all year. But I ain't gonna stick it with another Raiders one. I want to go a little off the grid here, and I'm gonna pick Mr. Aaron Rodgers,
for
quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, because this guy
for biggest loser?
Yeah, zero.
Yeah,
he's my zero on the year. Didn't have a good year. Had a sloppy year. He's a back-to-back last 2 MVPs.
Yeah.
And then came into this year and just did not play good. I know he didn't have a lot of help.
Yeah.
He started to develop some chemistry with Christian Watson later on in the year.
Yeah, he did.
And they did go on a little run to get himself back in playoff contention. But then it came down to they had the opportunity to control their own destiny, to get into the playoffs, and all they had to do was beat the Detroit Lions at home.
Yeah.
And they lost. So, I mean, he didn't look right all year long when we watched it, because we watched Green Bay a lot
we did.
in this local environment where we're at here in Michigan.
We watched
Green Bay's on TV
games
all the time.
Yeah.
And
remember that Jets game? He looked terrible.
Yeah, he looked like he didn't want to be there all year. He looked mentally just checked out the whole season. And now there's reports that he's probably done in Green Bay. So, I mean, that leaves the division wide open for the Lions next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, his first.
There's another guy I got to throw in here.
Throw him in.
Sorry, but Kyler Murray. He's another one.
He's been a zero for a couple years.
Yeah, I got to throw him into.
Brother hates Kyler Murray.
Ah, man, I just
very overrated.
Well,
and overhyped.
There's been a couple guys that have, you just hear stuff and they talk about Kyler Murray. Guys that have played the NFL and like they just talk about how he's just so wild. He just doesn't play the game with any rhyme or reason. He just plays backyard football.
Yeah, he plays like a dumb shit asshole.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a couple former players that had talked about that and just his wildness, and he's just not. It's not. He's like they basically said you're never going to win.
Well, he got his
consistently
coach,
like that.
He got his coach fired too.
Yeah,
so
Cliff
Arizona
Kingsbury
ended up firing their
let go because of that.
So there's our heroes and zeros, college and NFL. Brother, you want to do a little NFL MVP discussion?
MVP? Well, it's going to be tough because I'm rooting for Burrow, but I really think you got to give it to Mahomes. I mean, the guy threw for 5,200 yards. I think he had 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I mean, it was off the charts. I mean, you could say Jalen Hurts is another one, but when I look at the whole season, he got hurt at the tail end, and he didn't play a full season.
Yeah, I think he missed like 2 games.
Yeah,
like the last 2 games,
2 or 3 games.
After it was they had already clinched the playoff. Right?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, that's I
think it's between them 2 guys.
Yeah, you mentioned him, and that's who I was going to go with Jalen Hurts, because I think he did more with less in Philly. I mean, you look at Mahomes with Kansas City in that roster, and it's like almost you just expect Mahomes that he should have a year.
Yeah, for sure.
You just expect him to have a year like that. And Kansas City's kind of penciled in as a Super Bowl team to start the year every year as long as he's there. And Philly was kind of, I mean, there were some people that picked Philly to kind of win that division and make the playoffs, but not many people had Philly being as good as they are this year.
Yeah. And
Jalen Hurts is really the catalyst of what makes that team run, because when they brought in Gardner Minshew in place of him when Hurts was hurt,
those 2 games they lost those 2.
Yeah, he didn't play and they didn't win, and he is effective running the ball. He scores just as many rushing touchdowns as he does throwing touchdowns, it seems like. But he had a great year, and he's a guy that I was not high on when he was coming into the draft. I mean, because he started out at Alabama his first couple of years.
He rushed for 760 yards, 13 touchdowns.
He was an Alabama guy for a couple of years and wasn't any good, and lost his job to Tua. and then he transferred to Oklahoma and had a big year with Oklahoma in that crazy Lincoln Riley offense. And
Yeah.
then I think Philly drafted him in like the third round or
Yeah.
late second. And I was like, well, this ain't going to work because he's just not an NFL. He's a one-read guy,
Well,
read and go guy.
I still think though, like
and he's proved me wrong.
Yeah, I don't know though, brother. I still think that if you, I want to see another season of Jalen Hurts.
Me too.
At this level, I
Me
want to
too.
see another season. I mean, you can give him the MVP, but I almost feel like if say next year he comes out and he kind of takes a step back, is it going to be like a false MVP? You know what I mean?
What about
Like,
Lamar? What about Lamar Jackson when he won it?
I kind of feel the same way. Like when they gave it to Lamar, I was like, okay, yeah, he probably was the best player that year, but like he's not going to be as good the next year or the next year.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I know
because
what you
like they're one trick ponies.
I know what you
and
mean.
that one trick only lasts for
the
a little
league
while.
figures them out.
Yeah.
Mahomes
you got to be able. You got to be
it.
able to throw the ball.
Mahomes will probably get it because I think he probably did statistically have the best year throwing the football. But I think just most valuable to their team. I mean, you take Hurts off that team with Philly. I think they're nothing, and I don't think he had the talent that Mahomes did around him. We've seen where Kansas City's won with Chad Henne at quarterback and stuff. Couple
they
games.
weren't winning that game yesterday.
But he's got so much. I mean, he's got so many weapons around him. It's
it's
an embarrassment of riches.
Yeah, for sure.
It's ridiculous. So I go give it to Jalen Hurts. You give it to Mahomes. I don't think you can go wrong with either.
I don't think so either.
So who's your biggest disappointment for the season in the NFL? Team that was just like, wow. I had great expectations. Thought big things. Maybe Super Bowl contender. Maybe deep playoff run.
I could go Arizona. I mean, I think about how they started out last year. Didn't they start out 11-0, or they started out 11-2, something like that, something ridiculous last year, and then they fell flat, or 7-0 or something like that, and then they totally fell flat in the second half of the season, and they never really recovered even going into this season.
Yeah,
and
fired their coach too.
Yeah, it was a team that kind of looked like they had some players. I mean, they have Hopkins, and they got
Murray is supposed to be on paper like a good player, even though we agree.
I just don't see it.
We both think he's really not that good.
No, I mean he can make a spectacular play, but
he'll make. But for
that
every
doesn't
great,
mean like he's a good quarterback. Though.
For every great play he makes, he'll make 5 dumb shit asshole plays.
Yeah, for sure. So when I look at as far as where they could have ended up in that division, I don't know, because the Niners probably were always going to take that division. But Arizona, I definitely expected a lot more of. So that's probably mine. I'm trying to think of another team. I guess that's mine. The first one that comes to mind.
Who are you most shocked by? That was actually good, that you didn't expect anything from?
Jacksonville is one of them. I didn't expect them to make the playoffs for one, let alone win a playoff game. That's another one. Giants are another one. And you got to go with the Lions. I mean, going into the season, I don't think anybody thought that they were going to say 9 wins was a really.
I think I had them at 5.
Possibility.
I think I had them at like 5-12.
So they get 9 wins. That's probably my surprise. Especially after starting 1-6, it's like everybody was throwing dirt on them. I mean, leaving them for dead, rightfully so.
Us
at
included.
That time. But
I didn't even think.
I thought maybe 6 wins was like their ceiling this year. But hey, 9. Now they've set the bar at a point where next year you got to make the playoffs, right?
I would say so.
So, and if not, win the division. So that's my surprise of the.
Good one. I'd say my biggest surprise of the year, I would say, it's hard not to go with Jacksonville to me, because Jacksonville is just a franchise as a whole that's just been dead.
Yeah.
I mean,
they get Trevor Lawrence, and they got one hell of a lifeline.
They had that one playoff run like maybe 5 years ago where Blake Bortles was recorded. I think they went to the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
But they had that like insane defense. It was like one of the best defenses statistically in NFL history.
Yeah.
And they didn't end up getting it done, but then like literally like the next season, like since then, they've just been bottom feeders. It was like overnight. They went from, you hear about teams going from worst to first. Well, they went from first to worst.
When they had Marcus Stroud and a couple other guys on that defense.
Miles
Jack.
Yeah. And they ended up going from first to worst. And they've been just putrid.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect anything from them this year. I expected they'd probably be worse than the Lions, to be honest. Like I
I
had,
did too.
I had the Lions winning 5 games this year.
I thought
and-
Jacksonville could be up for the number 1 pick.
Yeah, I figured Jacksonville would win like 3.
Yeah.
I
did too.
and get the number 1 pick again.
I really
Here they
did
are.
too.
They go. I think it was 9-8. They won a playoff game. Took
Right.
the friggin' Chiefs to the wire.
Yeah.
And we're in it that whole game.
They were in it.
Jacksonville was a big surprise for me because I didn't expect anything from them. But Doug Peterson has went there and really
He's turned them around.
he's made Trevor Lawrence, like a real quarterback. We're seeing Trevor Lawrence the way he was advertised.
Yeah. I
So
agree.
they were a big shock. My biggest disappointment, I was going to go the Raiders because they're the Raiders. They're my team, but I'm going to go stay within that division though. Where a team that I thought was going to be pretty damn good, and since they picked up Russell Wilson, is the Denver Broncos.
Dude, I have heard like so many stories coming out that Russell Wilson is just like
he's like
some robotic human being.
like some weird jack-o'-lantern guy. Like the team just doesn't like him.
Yeah, he's like a phony. I don't know. He's just trying to be like
He's such a phony baloney.
Well, he's trying to be like this perfect human being or something like this all the time. That's what I've heard, and I saw it on Pat McAfee, and like it really
He's a weirdo.
It's turned the entire team like off on him. You know, like off against him, I guess.
Denver as a whole, when going into this year, I thought, well, they traded, they got Russell Wilson, they got one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and it always seemed
you
like
thought that.
You thought that, and it's kind of seemed like that's what Denver's been missing for like the last decade.
Yeah.
Was a legitimate quarterback. They've kind of bounced around, trying to find that guy. And once they got Russell Wilson, I was like, oh, well, shit, that's it.
Yeah, there you go.
You got Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. They got a good defense. And their defense was still good this year. But Russell Wilson was just he was on a different planet this season.
Yeah, he was.
And he ended up getting their coach fired.
Yeah.
So Denver's looking for a coach. They were a debacle all year. So, I mean, as bad as and disappointed I was in how the Raiders did, because I had playoff expectations for them with how good their roster was supposed to be. Denver, I expected kind of the same thing. And Denver, what did they win, like 4 games?
Yeah, it was not pretty.
It was, and couple of those wins came late in the year too.
So there's rumors of them getting Sean Payton. I guess they got to pay an arm and a leg.
Yeah, because he's still like under contract with the Saints.
Yeah, with the Saints.
Yeah, so I don't think that's going to happen. And if I'm Sean Payton, I don't know if I really want to go to Denver.
I don't know. I mean, you would think he'd be able to kind of
fix Russell Wilson. You think?
Put him back on the straight and narrow. Maybe. I don't know.
Maybe you don't want to deal with him as a head case though. If he's such a weirdo, Russell Wilson.
I mean, how could you win so many games in a Super Bowl with him at Seattle? And then he goes to
Bro, he could be just beat. He could be baked. He's been around for like 10, 11 years.
He has been around for
It doesn't seem like it, but when you think about it and look back and you go through his career, he's been around like 10, 11, 12 years.
I think he came out in 09 or 10.
Yeah, so it's like 11 years, 12 years. Yeah. He's been around a while. He could just, he runs around a lot.
Yeah, he's taking some hits.
He could just be baked.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad because he was a guy, there was like a 5-year span there where it's like he could have won the league MVP.
Oh, yeah,
any
for sure.
year.
He was one of the better.
He was phenomenal.
He was one of the top 2 or 3 players in the league.
Anything else you want to wrap about on heroes and zeros? Anyone you want to add in?
Yeah, that's a lot of
honorable mentions.
Honorable mentions. Well, from a Michigan standpoint, I got to go Blake Corum. I'm glad he's coming back. I think it's going to create
He's a hero for you.
Yeah, I think he's a better player than Donovan Edwards. I don't know how that really translates to the NFL. I think maybe Edwards might be a better pro player, but at the college level, I think Corum is a better player. Looking elsewhere outside of the college landscape, Caleb Williams is a great player. I think he's one of those guys that, when we sit down in Smith Boys podcast next year, we could be talking about, who's your star of the
Could be like
season.
A repeat Heisman.
Yeah, for sure. NFL, though, it's been an interesting season. Last night's playoff game wasn't all that good. It was horrible, actually. Philly just slaughtered the Giants, and so that wasn't all that entertaining.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know, for an honorable mention for me, I think Caleb Williams is who I was going to go with because he was
just
fun to
thinking
watch.
at the college level.
Yeah, at the college level, he'd be an honorable mention because he was fun to watch all year. That's why he won the Heisman, and I expect him to, probably be even better next year because USC is having a good recruiting class.
Yeah,
he's going to have more weapons around him. I think their receiver Jordan Addison might come back. He's one of the better receivers in college.
I don't know. I heard he's a top 10 pick.
Yeah, he probably will be. Yeah, well, he's a receiver. I don't know how many receivers go top 10 anymore. Especially he's not a big guy. He'll be like top 15, top 20 probably, but
Zach Taylor could win Coach of the Year
I think it'll be Doug Peterson for the Jags.
for the Jags. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But yeah, that's all I got to wrap on. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have too much more to go on that. So
All right, brother.
that's it for Heroes and Zeros. Until next time, Smith Boys out.
See ya.